welcome
Don't have a hearing aid.
Mervyn Langford. Thank you.
There must be 101 songs written to this tune. Come all you lads of the droving days, you gentlemen unafraid, I'll tell you of the strangest trip that ever a drover made. We packed our bags and rolled our swags, and taking our lives in hand, oh, we started away with 1,000 goats on the billy goat overland. Yes, we started away with 1,000 goats on the billy goat overland. There wasn't a fence that could hold the mob and keep them from their desires. They hopped along the top of the posts and cakewalked all the wires. And when the lanes were bare of grass and the paddocks were nice and green, oh, the goats they wandered outside the lanes and we travelled in between. Yes, the goats they wandered outside the lanes and we travelled in between. The squatters started to drive them back, but that was no good at all. Their horses ran for the lick of their life from a smell that was like a wall. And ne'er a dog had pluck enough in front of that mob to stand and to face the charge of 1,000 goats on the billy goat overland. And to face the charge of 1,000 goats on the billy goat overland. We found we were hundreds over strength when they started to count the mob. They put us in jail as a gang of thieves that travelled to steal and rob. 'Cause every goat twixt here and Burke that smelt of a spicy band had left its home and its friends to join the billy goat overland. Had left its home and its friends to join the billy goat overland. The next song I tossed around at home. Oh, well, I was walking down the street watching the storm come, and I thought I knew it, but as I was tossing it round in my head coming here tonight, I realised I didn't really know it, so I'm really sorry, but I'm going to revert to the traditional way that folk songs have been handed around, and that is on a laptop.
Shame. He's a fraud.
Written by Duke Tritton in 1937, put to music by, as I understand it, John Dengate.
On his laptop.
On his laptop.
On his laptop. The sun was blazing in the sky in waves of shimmering heat. Glared down on the railway cutting, we were half dead on our feet. The ganger stood on the bank of the cut and snarled at the men below. You'd better keep them shovels full, or all you cows will go. I never saw such a useless mob, you'd make a fella sick. A shovel man, you're hopeless, and you're no good with a pick. There was men in the gang could belt him with one hand tied at the back. But he had the power over us, and we dare not risk the sack. So we took his insults in silence, for it was a period when we lived in the Great Depression, and nothing was cheaper than men. We drove our shovels and swung our picks, and cursed the choke and dust. We'd wives and hungry kids to feed, so toil in the heat we must. And as the sun grew higher, the heat was more intense. The flies were in their millions, the air was thick and dense. We found it very hard to breathe, our lungs were hot and tight, with the stink of sweat and horses and the smell of gel ignite. And yet the ganger drove us on. But still the ganger drove us on. We couldn't take much more. We yearned for the day we took a chance to even up the score. A man collapsed in the heat and died. He was carried away from the side. It didn't seem to matter if that poor man lived or died. He's only a loafer, the ganger said, a lazy, useless cow. I was going to sack him anyway, he saved me the trouble now. He had no thought for a hungry kids, no thought for a woman's tears, as he struggled and fought to feed her brood all through the weary years. But then one of the government horses fell down and died in the dray. We hitched two others to him and dragged the corpse away. The ganger was a worried man and said with a heavy sigh, it's a very terrible shame to watch a very good horse die. You men get back to your work, don't stand there loafing now. Get in and trim the batter down, I'll fetch the engineer. The engineer came and looked around and I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. He did come and look around. And he said as he scratched his head, no horse could work in this dreadful heat, or all of them will be dead. We must take them down to the creek and spell them in the shade. And I think it's a terrible shame to work them while 'tis is so hot. And
you men must all knock
you men must all knock off at once, of course you'll not be paid. And as we plodded to our camp, it seemed to our weary brains, we were no better than convicts, though we did not wear the chains. But in those drear depression days, we were all unwanted men. But it seemed that when the war broke out, we'd all be heroes then, and we'd be given a rifle and forced to fight for the swine that tortured us and starved us on the sandy hollow line. There we go. You win some, you lose some. Some years ago I read an extraordinary book called Jackson's Tract, and it was basically started off at the same time in the Depression. Two young men with a horse and cart left their home in Melbourne and settled on a place called Jackson's Tract. And this is the song that I wrote coming out of that. And you'll recognise the tune if you'll recognise the tune. It's Bob Dylan's Oxford Town, which to me is a nice little conjunction. I didn't think of it until well after I'd written it, because that Oxford Town may well be taken from a North American Indian type of chant or song. Jackson's track, mighty fine living for the white and the black. Culture and race and time combine. Deep in the future that track's gonna shine. Two young men with a horse and cart walked from their homes for a brave new start. Didn't have a clue who they chanced to meet. Fell in with some blacks and it worked out a treat. Jackson's track, mighty fine living for the white and the black. Culture and race and time combine. Deep in the future that track's gonna shine. The blacks and the whites shared life on the track, while the civilized world turned its civilized back. If you don't share your thoughts, a meal or a joke, you won't ever know if you're cruising or broke. Jackson's track, mighty fine living for the white and the black. Culture and race and time combine. Deep in the future that track's gonna shine. The young white fella had a calm, clear mind, met a sweet black lady and their lives entwined. Lived and loved by the rules of fair play. And it all worked well because they worked it that way. Jackson's track, mighty fine living for the white and the black. Culture and race and time combine. Deep in the future that track's gonna shine. This track was lush, so wet and green, you couldn't make it burn if you used kerosene. Look for it now, some ghost you may find. But take all you need, 'cause the soil's been mined. Jackson's track, mighty fine living for the white and the black. Culture and race and time combine. Deep in the future that track's gonna shine. I've seen fringe camps and the gummies in the lane. When I look around now, I feel a deep shame. The ancients we have lost and the wisdom they had. It's damn worse than silly and it's worse than damn sad. Jackson's track, mighty fine living for the white and the black. Culture and race and time combine. Deep in the future that track's gonna shine. As Jackson's track fades from our view, what of your future does it take with it too? Who are our people? Where are they from? Do we pass on this country Will we ever belong? Jackson's track, Jackson's track. Mighty fine living for the white and the black. Culture and race and time combine. Deep in the future that track's gonna shine. If you're interested, some of the worst bushfires in Victoria a couple of years ago were that spot. Lionel Rose came off Jackson's track. He'd be a descendant of the book's called Jackson's Track, Memoirs of a Dreamtime Place. When you start singing, as I have doing now and haven't sung for a long time, all of a sudden lots of songs seem to pop out of the woodwork. So here's another really happy one. I'm a four-loom weaver, as many one knows. I've naught to eat and I've worn out me clothes. Me clogs are both broken and stockings I've none. They would scarce give me twopence for the clothes I put on. Oh, Billy O'Bent, he kept telling us long that things would be better if I but held me tongue. I've hold to me tongue till I near lost me breath, and I think that now soon I will come to me death. Oh, Margaret declares if she'd clothes to put on, we'd go up to London and see the great man. And if things did near alter when there we had been, she swears she would fight with blood up to the knee. I'm a four-loom weaver, as many one knows. I've naught to eat and I've worn out me clothes. Me clogs are both broken and stockings I've none. And I think that now soon I will come to me death. One more. This song I first heard in about 1967 when my father got it, and a little group called the Seekers were at the height of their fame then, and he tried to get the Seekers to record it. Some years later, in the mid-80s, what was the woman in the Seekers called? Judith Durham came to our house in Kingaroy when she was on a tour of southeast Queensland with her husband, the pianist, who subsequently died of MS or something, I think.
Ron.
And she was being escorted by a would-be promoter, a young fellow by the name of Bill Horrocks. I can remember three of the original. The Seekers wouldn't record it because it was considered way too political. The first three verses are from what the original song, and the last two are my verses, the last verse being written earlier this year. And there's a repeating line in it that I'd like you to join in. And of course it's the antithesis of the silly season. When I can remember the first line. I'm sorry. I live wherever human life is cheap, and I'm one half of the world. On ancient plains I try in vain to eat, and I'm one half of the world. I starve and die for want of bread. I long to see my children fed, but all too soon I know I'll see them dead, and I'm one half of the world. I'm one half of the world. Your tourist posters lure you to my land, and I'm one half of the world. They speak of ancient towns on every hand, and I'm one half of the world. They tell you nothing of the wanton pain, the misery of every humdrum day. And when you see, you turn your back again on my half of the world, on my half of the world. My little son is dying in the night, and I'm one half of the world. His eyes will never see the morning light, and I'm one half of the world. I've watched him lying slowly waste away. I've seen him growing weaker day by day, and soon I'll join him on that shadowed way, and I'm one half of the world. I'm one half of the world. Oh, we don't want to beg or live off charity, and I'm one half of the world. That won't break the cycle of our poverty, and I'm one half of the world. How can we be partners in a trading spree, sharing our produce with equality, when we're trading from our bended knee? And I'm one half of the world, and I'm one half of the world. Your soldiers come to teach democracy, and I'm one half of the world. We grab our kids, 'cause now we have to flee, and I'm one half of the world. Now haunted, hated, hunted and despised, no longer human in your bomb-glazed eyes. And when we drown, it's a blessing in disguise, and I'm one half of the world. I'm one half of the world. I live wherever human life is cheap, and I'm one half of the world.
Is that your bucket?
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll kick it. I'll take it outside and kick it. Thanks.